and welcome back to the Mind and Money podcast.
She's Sherry, a financial coach, and I'm Val, a financial planner. And we are going to talk about RSD. So Sherry had been brainstorming before I got here, and that was one of the topics. And I said, Sherry, what is RSD? I'm hip, no cap, bussin', but I did not know what RSD stood for. So, Sherry Bear, lay it on me.
Also, this is going to be a really unhinged episode. I can feel it. Did you see the TikTok video where a professor or teacher went to talk to a group of students and they were Gen Alpha, and he went down the Gen Alpha lingo rabbit hole, and it actually had to be closed captioned so that people that were non-Gen Alpha could understand it?
No.
Those kids cracked up. Anyways, different generations,
We'll need to
lingo.
look at this.
But this isn't lingo. This is a short form for...
It's an acronym, right?
A term that's a mouthful. So it's actually for RSD is Rejection Sensitivity Dysphoria, and describes it as an intense emotional sensitivity to perceived or actual rejection, criticism, or failure. And some of the things that people with RSD can experience are extreme emotional reactions to criticism or rejection, whether it's real or perceived. We like to lean heavy onto the perceived because we're assholes to ourselves. Sudden mood drops or intense feeling of shame and embarrassment or worthlessness. Avoidance of situations where rejection is possible. Overcompensating or people-pleasing to avoid disapproval. Check, check, check. Anger or outbursts, either internalized self-hate or externalized lashing out, which I wouldn't have thought that would have come with RSD, but sometimes I do that when I'm in hyper-focus mode and get interrupted. I know I can lash out, but as an entrepreneur with ADHD, this can have a lot of challenges. But my experience is that as an employee, RSD is a lot more impactful on a regular basis when it comes to things like performance reviews and even just the quick email or message, hey, do you have a minute to chat?
Love that one. Can we call?
Or can you come to my office for a minute? This is it. And even though I say that, when I go back to my experience of getting fired, I had no premonition
that's
that,
what it
and
was
I had
going to be.
Doom. But as an entrepreneur, I think one of the big ones is not putting yourself out there to a potential opportunity because, well, what if they say no? What if they hate me? What if...
It keeps you safe. I don't want to come across this way. I don't want to say the wrong thing. It keeps you safe. I say I quietly ran a business for 5 years, if not a little bit more.
One way it shows up for me is that if I have a conversation with a client, there's a really good vibe, I really feel strongly that I can help them and I want to work with them, and then I never hear from them again. I'm like, what did I do wrong? And really understanding that it's not you. It's not you. Some people just aren't ready, or they find somebody else, or it's okay. And knowing that you did everything you can. And there's just, I also asked ChatGPT for a list of potential impacts for entrepreneurs with ADHD, and like the impact area, risk taking. So avoiding risk.
Yes.
Avoiding networking.
Absolutely. Because that puts you out there.
Yeah, I avoid networking just because it's mentally exhausting. And I think some of that comes from spending a lot of time by myself, but also feeling like I have to show up a certain way when I'm networking. Avoiding feedback, yes. Decision making, hyper focus on avoiding negative outcomes, impacts our confidence and often leads to perfectionism and not putting things out there into the world and it's this unique thing, right? As an entrepreneur with ADHD, we have the ability a lot of times to make changes to our business structure, our programs, our offerings, but then maybe we get half or 3/4 of the way through something and then we stop because we overthink it and we don't think it's going to be perfect. It can hold us back.
We get in our head, or we see someone else doing it. And we're like, well, it's already been done.
Yeah. Or I can't post about that because I saw somebody post about that already.
Right.
Just post about it. There's basically zero original thoughts left in the world because
the brains are busy.
Yeah. And everybody's thought of something and you're going to have your own spin to put on it, whether that's just the vibe you bring to it, but put yourself out there. And
RSD is kind of like a fence being around us, and we tell ourselves it's electric. So don't touch it, don't cross it, don't try to go over it. But it's a piece of yarn.
Ooh.
She's a visual girly. So, and it negatively impacts us because it has us playing smaller. It has us assuming the worst because we're like, okay, we're going to get fired, or so-and-so's going to be mad at us, or I'm not going to be able to figure this out or fix it. So what are some tricks that ADHD entrepreneurs, tricks, habits, tools can use to help eliminate, minimize, avoid RSD?
One that I like, and this sounds so bizarre, but just stick with me here, is if you are thinking about doing something and you feel yourself not moving forward or avoiding that, actually go down the rabbit hole of what is the worst thing that could possibly happen. Because often the worst thing that could happen isn't actually that bad. So if you think about, okay, I want to reach out to this person about being a guest speaker at their event. So we put something together, we send an email, we say, hey, I'm this person, I would like to do this, I see this event, and I'd be open to talk about it if it's something you're interested in. And then you think about, okay, what's the worst thing that could possibly happen? You could not get a response. That sucks. You could get a response that says, thanks, but no thanks. That really sucks. Random thing that's probably never going to happen. You could get a response that says, no way in hell do I want you to speak at my event because I think you're a flaming fucking idiot.
Right.
And
Right.
that's so extreme. That's probably never going to happen. But if that's the worst thing that happens, you can just then be like, okay, it's a no. And yes, it wouldn't be easy. But then when you flip, what's the best thing that could happen? They reach out and they want to have a conversation. They're interested in it. It could be a potential opportunity of growth for you to connect with a lot of people. You can think about the likelihood of either one, but generally what's going to actually happen is going to be you're either going to get a yes, a no, or no response. And they're probably not going to be extreme either way. If you don't put yourself out there, you lose that potential opportunity. And another way that RSD shows up for me is with assholes on the internet. And I logically, I know that they are assholes on the internet.
Yes, keyboard cowboys.
But then it's easier to say that than to actually think that way. But
it's always easier to be like, they're just jerks. Their words carry no value, even though you're like, oh, that stung.
Yeah, and I will stew on it. Recently, it was a response to a video on YouTube. They're always on YouTube. Why are the assholes always on YouTube? They put on there something about, why am I taking advice from somebody that's not even diagnosed according to your website? And yeah, I probably need to go update my website because I'm now medicated. And also, squirrel, medication has really helped me with RSD. And I went to your website and there's so many mistakes on your website. And
also right there, we know that person is not the client for you. Like they're not the match. They're not the pair. We will not work well together.
Well, and my reaction is always to just go and block them. But then I'm thinking, how much time did you spend combing through my website to figure out all of these things? And yeah, hello, I'm an entrepreneur with ADHD who sometimes changes my website on the fly. So sometimes that's going to lead to errors, and not one client or potential client has ever said, I went to your website and I found errors. So
that's why I'm not working with you. I think too, it reminds me, I'm like, I don't know if it's empathy, but something comes up where I'm like, someone took time out of their day to be a deliberate downer to someone else.
Yep.
Like, and it makes me think, I hope I never do that unless, like, let's say the person was like, let's say it was that person being nasty to someone, then maybe I'll go and be like, you're being a jerk, right? Like, I'll take the time to like stand up to that person, but to be the person that is, let me find flaws, blast you for them. That's crappy. It's sad.
Yeah.
It's very sad. It's like anytime that you talk to someone that's like, this is going wrong, or I'm always tired. I'm always this. Life is never okay. And sometimes there's seasons of life where we are in those seasons, but when it's almost a lifestyle of the victim negative, it's like, oh man,
yeah,
that's exhausting to be you.
And it's a them problem.
Yes.
And it's funny. I was just thinking, if I see somebody else saying something mean on somebody else's post, I will run to their defense. And I think when it's related to negative comments towards me or my business, I just delete them because I'm not giving them any of my mental capacity. I'm going to stew about it. Damn right I'm going to stew about it, but I'm not going to take the time to justify responding to them. They just get the old
block, delete, see you
Yeah.
later. Yes.
Yeah. And it's tough. And we are really hard on ourselves. So trying to put yourself too in the situation of if you were talking to someone you cared about and this happened to them, what would you say to them? And how can you embody that advice you would give to them with yourself? Because
I go back to the be your own best friend. How would you lift yourself up? And if you think of it, like when you were talking right there, when we first start out in our business, we're like a little hermit crab. And just the slightest footprint 10 feet away on the beach, and we are back in our shell. And it takes exercising against those negative forces that will come up internally and externally to be like, no, I'm staying out of my shell. I'm not going back in. I'm not hiding. Yep. And there's still going to be days where even 10, 15, 20 years into the business, something might make you want to crawl back in your shell, but it's how you pull yourself out.
Yeah. And I think part of it is like getting older and part of it is being in my business for longer. But I think every year that goes by, I gain more and more confidence in this is me, this is who I am, take it or leave it. And if something that I do makes you feel like you need to say something nasty to me, yes, that's a you problem, but also you are never going to be someone, we're never going to work together.
Yeah.
So if somebody that I'm never going to work with doesn't like me, that has zero impact on my business.
Yeah.
And there are people who, honestly, I get a lot of clients and potential clients that we will meet for the first time and be like, your website just spoke to me. I knew you were the person for me from your website. And that's what truly matters. Because if you go to my website, you're like, oh, somebody that's not going to build shame around money and somebody who's fucked up with her money. There's all these situations that
you're like, I relate.
Yeah. And when you feel pulled, that's the person that I care about when I'm putting stuff together on my website or social media. I want a potential client to feel seen, heard, and understood and know that they don't have to feel like they're feeling right now about their money forever. There's help. There's help that's not going to make you leave a meeting and be like, well, never talking to that person again. They'd made me feel like shit about my money. Like, yeah, fuck the haters. So if you're feeling RSD, whether you're an entrepreneur or not, just think about why and what's impacting it, and just often writing it down and working it through by writing it down.
Another tip is like keeping a little win bank. So if you get like a really great testimonial or even if it's outside of business, like it could be from any aspect of life, a note from a loved one or like a sticky note, whatever, having that win bank to go to when you're in debt to your self-esteem. You're like, okay, I need to pump myself back up. What can I pull from this? So
yeah. And that can be as simple as taking a screenshot of something and having an album in your photos of wins and positive things so that you can go and see. Yeah. And I don't do that well enough. Every time I get a testimonial or somebody sends me a text, I'm like, oh, yes. I'm about 10% good at tracking and recording that. And then even worse, like 10% of that at sharing the positive things that my clients email me or text me. I need to.
Yeah.
I will be better at that. But also if you're on the fence about seeking or trying medication, and RSD is something that's a big challenge for you. Yeah, medication did really help me for that. Everybody's different, right? So just know that there are different options out there that could support you as well. So yeah, RSD, it is real. It helps us be assholes to ourselves. But quick circle back. As an employee, honestly, the two biggest decisions for me to leave the last full-time job I had were the schedule was the biggest one. Not being fully in charge of my own schedule. But another big one was like the RSD and how I always perceived that I wasn't doing
always on
enough.
the shopping.
Yeah, and I think it comes from the trauma of getting fired and the trauma of how performance reviews went in the job that I got fired from.
Yeah.
And when performance reviews came up at my last job, I was so anxious. I felt like I was going to throw up. And I did send a note to my boss about that, and bless her. She said, if you find something during a performance review that's negative, that's a surprise to you, that is me being a poor manager. Because if you're not doing something that I want you to do or something's not I'm going to have those conversations with you outside of a performance review.
It should, right?
But I had so much trauma from before when we would have an annual performance review and there would be just
dumping.
so many things that were things that I did wrong all year long, or generally things that I did wrong the last 2 weeks.
Yeah, they're like, oh, now we'll pay attention. But how awesome, like that you're self-aware, you could bring it up with your boss. Like, you've also come a long way with that, but it's important to look at that and go like, where for myself now, where at the bank, I knew I would always be bottom of the totem pole because I did not push sales.
Yep.
It gave me the ick. It wasn't for me. It was things that people were not looking for, but I also knew I wasn't there forever. So I'm like, yeah, that's fine. There would be a report card and I'd have the least amount of stars. I'm like, okay. Well, sounds good. So it didn't impact me because I know I'm not here forever. And I know I'm not going to force myself to do something that doesn't align with me. So now being self-employed, it's more so, am I taking care of my clients? And when things slip through, I'm like, oh, like then I feel that RSD.
Yeah.
And then with the regulators and stuff, which yours has less of, you have more just like get the CE credits. So making sure I'm also taking care of those things. So it's a little different, but it's still there with the sandwiching between the two.
Yeah. And I think one of the things too is beating myself up for not being my highest producing self every day. Like, oh, I'm just being lazy. There's going to be ebbs and flows to our level of accomplishment each day. For me, I need to know that one day if I'm super productive, the next day is probably going to be and planning that so that there are fewer things on my to-do list. So then, and some days it's just like, what is the least amount of things that you have to do today? And sometimes it's one simple thing. It's like that. I'm going to focus on that. And if I get that done, I'm going to be okay. Yeah. We just need to lower the bar sometimes because.
Yeah, the bar's flexible.
Yeah, the bar is flexible.
The bar is flexible.
And as an individual with ADHD, if you are an employee and you are having some of those like, ooh, what did I do? Just having some conversations with your boss around, hey, never send me a note to say, hey, do you have a minute to talk or we need to talk? Just elaborate, add another sentence.
Please, just one more.
This
is nothing bad.
Even if it is something bad, I think I would want to know, like, hey, do you have a minute to talk? Like, there's some issues with, and knowing more about it, whether that's good or bad. And I think if it's a good thing, just saying it's nothing bad or it's something positive is enough. But if it's something bad, just elaborating on it so you're not catastrophizing.
Eliminate some of that mystery for me.
Yeah.
So
exactly.
Thanks for listening to our episode about RSD.
And we can't wait to see you next time on the Mind and Money Podcast.